welcome back to The Explainer. If you've ever stepped into a high-stakes leadership role, maybe you're a newly minted CEO, a manager scaling a team, or just someone trying to navigate complex organizational politics, you absolutely need a playbook. Well, today, think of me as your personal senior advisor. We are dusting off the ultimate architectural blueprints of power, stability, and statecraft directly from Niccolo Machiavelli's classic 1515 treatise, The Prince. We're going to strip away the centuries and look at the raw mechanics of how authority actually works.
Right out of the gate, look at this quote. Man, that is ruthless, right? But listen, Machiavelli doesn't write moral codes. He diagnoses human nature. His observation here establishes the incredibly high stakes of 16th century statecraft. The logic is purely analytical. If you injure someone slightly, they survive, and they will absolutely plot revenge. If you crush them, the threat is eliminated. It's dark, for sure, but this level of unsentimental calculation is the foundation of the survival strategies we're unpacking today.
Okay, let's dive into our strategic roadmap. First up, securing new states. Number 2, the Roman preemptive strategy. Third, the mercenary trap. And finally, independent ability and arms.
Starting off with Section 1, securing new states and the foundation of presence.
When a leader takes over a new territory, or, a new company, especially one with entirely different customs or workflows, they hit a massive wall of difficulty. Good fortune just isn't enough. Machiavelli argues that the absolute ultimate rule for a new ruler is simply this: go and live there. You have to be physically present. Why? Because being on the spot is the only way a leader can analyze and spot disorders as they spring up, allowing you to remedy them instantly. If you're managing from an ivory tower 1,000 miles away, you only hear about problems when they've grown so massive that they literally can't be fixed.
And this brilliantly illustrates what not to do. When King Louis XII entered Italy, he systematically broke every single rule of presence and balance. It was a disaster. He destroyed the minor powers who could have been useful allies. He inexplicably increased the strength of the church, which was already a massive threat. He brought in Spain, a huge foreign power. And crucially, as we just talked about, he didn't settle in the country, nor did he set up colonies, which are essentially cheap, loyal outposts. He built a house of cards and basically handed the win to his enemies.
Moving on to Part 2, the Roman preemptive strategy and the power of foresight.
There's a fascinating contrast here that every modern leader needs to understand. The ancient Romans didn't just manage current crises. They were obsessed with future risks. They operated proactively. They maintained friendly relations with minor powers, actively humbled the greater ones, and drove out foreign influences. The Romans knew a fundamental truth. War is never truly avoided. It's only delayed to the advantage of your enemy. So they struck early. Contrast this Roman method of preemptive action with the delay tactics of Machiavelli's contemporary wise ones, whose whole philosophy was just to enjoy the benefits of the time. The Romans knew that time brings evil just as easily as good, so you have to go looking for the truth early.
Machiavelli frames this foresight with this incredible medical analogy. Early on, a malady is easy to fix but extremely hard to see. Later on, everyone can see it, but nobody can fix it.
He calls this hectic fever. Now, what's really interesting about this concept is how it connects to your feedback loop. If a physician spots hectic fever early, the patient lives. In statecraft or corporate leadership, it's the exact same mechanism. But here's the catch. To spot that hectic fever before it's obvious, you need absolute, unfiltered organizational truth. If you contrast the proactive Roman strategy with a modern CEO who just waits for problems to become obvious, the difference is fatal. A wise leader actively hunts for the hectic fever of rebellion or corruption long before the symptoms are public. Let's move to Section 3, the mercenary trap and the illusion of outsourced defense.
This is the most critical vulnerability of any state. Mercenaries and auxiliaries are basically paid soldiers for hire or foreign troops. Machiavelli is brutally clear here. They are disunited, ambitious, and totally unfaithful. Actually, think of them as the 16th century battlefield equivalent of court flatterers. They take your money, they act tough when times are good, but they have absolutely no skin in the game. They rely on a trifle of stipend, a tiny paycheck, which is nowhere near enough to make them willing to die for you. Machiavelli bluntly states that relying on these hired guns is exactly what caused the total ruin of Italy.
So, the crucial point is mapping out these vulnerabilities. If you use mercenaries, they rob you during peacetime and literally run away when war hits. If you use auxiliaries, troops borrowed from another ruler, the math is somehow even worse. If they lose, you are ruined. If they win, you become their captive, because a foreign army is now sitting inside your borders. Even mixed forces subordinate your own people to aliens. Machiavelli's inescapable conclusion is that your own arms, forces made up of your own loyal citizens, is the only secure foundation.
Which brings us to our final strategic pillar, independent ability in arms, the ultimate tenet of power.
Let's see how all this builds through the real-world example of Cesare Borgia. His career is a step-by-step validation of everything we've talked about. Step 1, Borgia used French auxiliaries. He quickly realized he couldn't rely on them. Step 2, he switched to mercenaries, but he soon found them to be deceitful and incredibly dangerous. So, Step 3, he completely destroyed the mercenaries and turned entirely to his own men. Borgia's reputation didn't peak when he had French backing. It peaked only when he proved his independent ability and commanded his own loyal forces.
This right here is the whole shebang, the grand unified theory of the prince. Power must be founded entirely on independent ability to survive adversity. If your power relies on the luck of others, the money of others, or the armies of others, it is incredibly uncertain and unstable. You have to build internal strength.
So what does this all mean for us today? Do modern institutions still fall into the trap of outsourcing their strength? Absolutely. But today, leaders don't usually outsource to mercenary armies, they outsource their intellectual defense. Machiavelli warned that courts are full of flatterers, a pest that leads leaders into ruin just as surely as mercenaries do. Think about it. Court flatterers are the modern corporate mercenary. They tell you exactly what you want to hear to secure their own jobs, but they will absolutely abandon you when the company faces a crisis. And remember, a prince who isn't wise himself can never take good advice. So as your senior advisor, here is your step-by-step guide to building a protective inner circle, what we call the executive truth circle. Step 1, stop asking for feedback in a public Slack channel where everyone's just going to flatter you. Step 2, pick 3 incredibly smart people in your organization. Step 3, take them to lunch and explicitly tell them you'll only pay the bill if they hurt your feelings with actual hard facts. You need to ask them specific, brutal questions to reveal the hidden truth, like, what is the one thing I'm doing that is actively bottlenecking this team? Or, if we were going to completely fail in 6 months, what would be the exact reason? You have to ask questions of everyone, but form your own conclusions and remain steadfast once a decision is made. Otherwise, you'll be overthrown by flatterers. You must actively seek out the hectic fever of your organization before it becomes obvious to everyone else. Don't outsource your truth and don't outsource your strength. That is the true architecture of power. Thank you for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one as we continue to decode the frameworks that run our world.